So, the Wings have the early game today. It is at lunchtime here in Vancouver, so 12 p.m. PST, 3 p.m. EST. It is a little bit of an early one, but the Wings did have a day off yesterday during the NHL's calamitous 15-game schedule, so I guess, Sunday afternoon, right? It's a lazing on a Sunday afternoon type of day. With that in mind, I wanted to talk about some comments made by Red Wings forward Patrick Kane, because he had recently spoken out about a few things that I did think were interesting. We're going to leave links in the description to 2 different articles, and of course, the ExpressVPN link is also going to be down there, so go ahead and check it out. The affiliate link can save you some money on your months on your VPN if you do need it, so go out there and see if it's right for you. But we are taking a look at 2 separate articles in regards to Patrick Kane interviews because there are some really interesting things that he had said recently in the media. So let's head over to the first one. This was on the Chicago Sun-Times website, as on January 10th, Ben Pope published this article going over how Patrick Kane discusses a Jonathan Toews NHL comeback. It would be great, Kane says. Now, last time we had spoken about Jonathan Toews, it was in a video going over whether or not he actually had the opportunity to return, and if a team like Edmonton would be one of those teams that wants him. This was talked about in an article, an interview that he did, where he had talked about his forced vomiting and some of the other things that had really helped him become just more mentally peaceful and physically well after going through his bout with long COVID, which is of course why this article that we're reading is on ChicagoSunTimes.com. It's technically a Blackhawks story, but it starts out by saying this: as former Blackhawks legend Jonathan Toews mulls a potential NHL comeback, another former Hawks legend and Patrick Kane had some thoughts about the challenges and the rewards that might await Toews. The 2 of them talked a little bit recently, Kane said Friday, and he figures they'll likely talk more soon. The article then talks about the Jonathan Toews story and how he's been going through everything he has gone through. But if Toews does try to play again, it won't be easy as a 36-year-old coming off of nearly 2 years away from hockey. Kane, who had missed the first half of last season recovering from major hip surgery before signing with the Wings, knows that as well as anyone. Over the course of time, the game changes, Kane said. It's not the same game that he probably remembers. It's probably faster, it's different in some ways. When you're in it, maybe you don't feel those changes as much when you're on a team playing on a day-to-day basis. Even this year, I missed 5 games and came back, and it's like you're kind of easing your way into it, feeling it out. I'm sure it would be a little bit of a time frame for him if he came back to feel it out. Kane does have faith, however, in Toews' physical strength and motivation. If he's coming back and he feels good, he's healthy, he's got a lot of energy, and he has a desire to play at a high level, that's great. That's going to outweigh any other thing, no matter how much time he has had off or what the game is like now. And so, for Patty Kane going out there and talking about his old buddy and Jonathan Toews, obviously, this is a heartwarming thing to see. Kane and Toews were 2 of the best players in the NHL around the 2010s-ish era. Maybe Toews not necessarily to that same ceiling, but still, this duo, Kane and Toews. I feel like as a kid growing up in elementary school here in Canada, around the 2010s, people would talk about hockey players, they'd talk about Crosby and Ovi, the 2 faces of the entire league. Of course, here on this side of the continent, everybody would be talking about Henrik and Daniel and Roberto Luongo, but Kane and Toews were always in there too. You talk about those superstars, man. Ovechkin, Crosby, St. Louis was in there, Kane, Toews, Getzlaf, Perry, Kopitar. I mean, Kopitar's still really good, so maybe that's a bad comparison. But still, it has been years since Kane and Toews were both dominant on the same team. And ultimately, if you want to talk about guys who have a story to tell in terms of taking some significant time off and coming back to the National Hockey League, Patrick Kane's right in there. Maybe not to the same extent as Jonathan Toews. Kane wasn't out for multiple years after all, but still, there is some relatability there. The article then talks about whether or not Toews could return to Chicago and how it's not really all too plausible, but those facts didn't stop Kane from listening to his heart and campaigning Friday for the Hawks to bring Toews back. When you look at his career, how storied it is, and how much success he had as a Blackhawk, sometimes you don't want to see him wear another jersey, Kane said. You would rather see him finish his career as a Blackhawk. I think that'd be a great story and good for the franchise too, to bring some excitement back. I think he would help out a lot of the younger players there, but I don't know if that's really in the cards. That's just my thinking. And so, this certainly does take an interesting turn. Kane talking about Toews returning to Chicago. You can let me know your thoughts in the comments section below whether or not he has a point here, whether or not that's actually the right course of action. If Toews does come back, would you rather see him with Chicago or with any other NHL team? Maybe if you're a Red Wings fan watching, what do you think about that idea? Obviously, you'd need to guarantee that Toews is actually a good enough player to play, but still, I feel like Chicago doesn't need to take that risk. They're so bad already that they could just use whatever help they could get, and any morale booster, I feel, would certainly help them out in the positive way. With this in mind, though, I wanted to go over to another article because Patrick Kane had some other comments in regards to the Red Wings. Yeah, we're shifting gears from Chicago, Windy City, over to Motown. Let's take a look at this piece from earlier yesterday. Jack Sutherland published this. Patrick Kane takes a subtle jab at Derek Lalonde's coaching style. Okay. I feel like a lot of Wings fans would be more interested in this one. Let's go out there and read what Patrick Kane said in the recent Red Wings media availability from yesterday. Kane said this: not sitting back in the game and keep pressing. It's one of the things that's really changed. I don't want to say we were afraid of making mistakes before, but we're playing with more aggression now, better positioning to have more time and space. Huh. Small comment. Yeah. But telling, isn't it? This is one of these things where I feel like with Patrick Kane and his veteran qualities as one of the best players in the NHL of the past 15-ish years or so, when he goes out there and says something like this, oh, you have to go out there and listen, he's definitely not saying this without any reason. And we had been speaking this entire time, too, about how veteran guys like Kane, for example, you could very much tell when they're checked out. When they are not going, they're not feeling it anymore. If they're in a spot where they're saying, yeah, no, like, this is not working, we need to get a change here, we need a coaching change. Patrick Kane was not playing for Derek Lalonde towards the end of Lalonde's tenure, and you could definitely see the body language on the ice. So for him to explode offensively with the addition of Todd McLellan onto the team, obviously, it makes for some very good stories and narratives, but for Kane to say something like this, yeah, we're not afraid of making mistakes. We're actually pressing. That's one of the things that has changed from the previous coaching staff to the new one. Our positioning is better, our awareness is better, and everything else. Like, it's so telling, isn't it? Especially when you think about what Red Wings fans, not the team or the media, but what the fans have been saying over the past few months. I feel like a lot of these things that Kane is talking about, these critiques on the old system, a lot of fans would go out there and say, yeah, that's exactly what was happening. We saw that happen. We recognized that that was an issue way before, it seems, Steve Yzerman did. Or maybe Yzerman already knew about these, but he just wanted to hold on to faith. He wanted to make sure that Derek Lalonde was really the problem here. Anyways, the coaching change is done now, and the same question still remains. If the Wings had done this coaching change sooner, would things have been better? Would they have gotten a lot better quicker? How would they have done if they had the whole season with Todd McLellan, for example? Not saying that it should have happened that way. I think Derek Lalonde did deserve a bit of a leash, especially to start out the year, considering the playoff push that he had in 24. But still, this has been a big systematic change for the Wings in terms of how they position themselves and how much engagement they have, and it's been very obvious for anybody watching that Todd McLellan's new style, at least at this part of the season, is working tremendously with this cast of Red Wings guys. And I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Kane speaking out about it in this way? Low-key, maybe not so low-key, taking a subtle jab, maybe not so subtle jab at Derek Lalonde and how everything's been going on with the Red Wings. Let me know your thoughts in the comments as to how he spoke about Jonathan Toews too. Lots of Kane stuff to get into before the Wings play off against the Kraken, but for now, thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 9 and bye.